Hello, this is Marcus from InfoSec Governance. This video today is all going to be about the risk register and managing your risks within the business. If you don't already manage your risks within the business, it's something you should really start looking at. It helps you identify any possible problems within the business, how to fix them, what solutions there are to actually do it, and actually just make your life easier. You can identify whether or not there's going to be a cost impact to it. Is your business reputation going to be damaged? Can your business actually survive X, Y, and Z? So today we're just going to go through a template risk register spreadsheet that I've made. This is going to be free to use. I'll stick it up on our website and put a link down below this video. But we're just going to go through it, put a couple of examples in and just explain why you should be doing it, what the fields are for, and go from there. And hopefully it'll be beneficial for you. Now, if you do like this, I'd appreciate it if you like the video, if you want to subscribe to us as well and follow the channel. And we'll be pushing more videos out like this in the future, so it'll be a bit more informative for you, and you'll be able to build out your governance framework and information security framework as well. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and start off. So as you can see on this first Excel tab here, we've got a document control. This is just pretty much just informing whoever reads this Excel spreadsheet, what the information is. What classification it is, even though it says risk register there, it could be something like internal, private, public, or anything like that. Who approves it, who the owner of the document is. Ideally, any documents within the business should have a document owner. Whether or not that's a team of people or just one person, that's for your business itself, but ideally you should have someone there who actually owns and controls the document. Last time it was reviewed. For risk registers, it should be reviewed constantly. It should be a live document. You should be going through, reviewing it, modifying it, reevaluating those risks, adding risks, removing risks, and you get the idea. So if there was said frequency review, we've just put as needed, but that could be a monthly, it could be quarterly. I wouldn't say any more than quarterly because it's going to get stale in that case. So changes, this is just part of your change control, your version control. Obviously, if it's going to be a document that doesn't change much, or if you're a small business and things don't change that much once you've identified all the risks, you could put version numbers in there. So it could start from version 0.1 and move up, or it could start from version 1 and move up. And then again, you could say here, changes, who are all these changes made by? If you're a small team, it could be one person, or if you're a larger team of people, it could be a group of people. And then we just got a little description here of what this spreadsheet is. And then here we go down and actually start talking about the various columns that you'll see in a minute on the spreadsheet. So risk probability, this is what is the probability of the risk that you've identified ever happening. Good part of the risk assessment or the risks spreadsheet is look at all risks, no matter how small, how slim they're going to be, identify what they're going to be and fill it in. It might be, sorry, that was my phone. It might be 1 in a million chance happening, but at least if you identify it, you've got it there and you know what's going to happen. And then risk impact, what is the level of impact that's going to happen if that risk ever does happen? Is it going to be a minor little thing? Is it going to take your business out of action for a day, a couple of hours, a month? And then the risk level. What is the actual level of the risk going to be? Now that works it out against the probability and the impact of it. And then from that, you can actually work out how severe it's going to be. And then as we move on for the risks, we'll actually look at how to actually manage the risks. So once you've filled in the risk description, the actions for remediation if you can, what the impact is going to be, what the probability is going to be, you can then say how are you actually going to manage that risk. Now the main ones are accept the risk. So you go, yeah, fair enough, that's a risk, we accept it, we're going to move on. If it happens, it happens. Eradicate the risk, which pretty much means you've identified the risk and you're going to put either controls or measures in place to actually remove that risk so it no longer happens. Reduce the risk, as it says, you're going to put measures or actions in place or policies, whichever you like, in place, which actually reduces the risk. It doesn't fully get rid of the risk, but it puts things in place where it actually lowers the actual overall risk. And then transfer the risk, that could be, if it's a supplier risk that you've identified, you might move that risk to another supplier or move over to another supplier which has a far lower risk overall. And then, as you say here, we've got an action. So what is the action for these remediations or the management of the risks? Who is the owner of the risk? So again, you should have a risk owner or an owner of that risk or that area. And then residual risk, which is easy for me to say. So what I've got down here, as you can see, we've got a couple of tabs here. So we've got impact ratings, which I'll show you in a second, just talks about describing the various bits within the register. Got the risk register and then closed risks. So if we click on the impact ratings, you can see here, this is just an overall rough idea of the risk impact that you could have. This changes depending upon what you need and what you have. It could change. You could have a matrix of 1 to 5, 1 to 10. You could have high, low, medium. You could have anything you like. But for this, we've just put an impact of low, which is anywhere between 6 to 12 months. So if anything happens or there's a risk within that time frame, that's what that is. A medium risk is anywhere between 1 and 6 months, and high is it's immediate. It could affect you straight away. It's catastrophic. And then along here as well, we're just working against the ISO 27001 framework. So we're looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability of those risks. So confidentiality is it actually going to be exposing any confidential information? Is it going to be leaking any information from your business that could harm you? Integrity could be, has anything within the risk broken its integrity? So has it broken, or if your backups aren't working, you can't restore or anything like that. Availability is if your systems have gone down. And then with all that, you can actually work out what your impact's going to be. So if we come across here on the risk register, as you can see, we've got a couple of sections here. So although it might look overwhelming straight away, it's fairly easy to fill in. So this section here, we've got risk details. So this is a bit about all the risk that you found. So it just fills it in. So you got your primary asset and your sub-asset and your risk and impact description. So the primary asset could be anything. So for example, in this example, we're going to put down suppliers. So the primary asset would be a supplier. The sub-asset could be late payment, but it could be anything else. It could be late payment. It could be loss of your CRM package, loss of your finance package, loss of your key supplier. So you might have actually lost your supplier or something like that. And then the risk and impact description, that is just going to be a brief description about the risk, what it is, how it's going to impact your business. And then over to this section here, we've got risk treatment. So as you can see, this is a bit more information here. So the suggested action is, how are you actually going to manage that risk, or how are you going to treat that risk? It could be if we're having a supplier that is paying late, you could say that you're going to ensure that suppliers always pay, 50% upfront or some kind of deposit first, and then go from there. And that would actually reduce your risk. And then for this bit here, we've got cost impact. For risks, it's always good to actually associate a cost to the risk impact. So for example, if a supplier is always paying you late, do you have to actually pay for the goods yourself before the supplier pays you, or vice versa? How much is that going to cost you? So for example, if a supplier hasn't paid you for 3 months, you're out of pocket, how much does that cost you? It could be £10,000, could be £20,000, £500,000, something like that. And then over the probability, we've got what is the probability of it actually happening. So we've got low, medium, and high. The risk impact, what is the impact if it does actually happen? Again, we've got low, medium, and high. And then the risk level, which we'll fill in a second, will actually calculate the level between high, medium, and low against the risk probability and the risk impact. And then here we've got all the various ways of eradicating, accepting, reducing, and transferring the risk. Then who is the owner of the risk that's been identified? And then in this section here, we've got residual risk. So this is what is the actual risk level once you've actually put the treatment in place. So the probability is, what's the probability of it ever going to happening once you've actually put the treatment in place? So has it actually gone down? Has it remained the same or anything like that? And then again, the impact, what is the impact going to be once all the things are put in place? Again, that'd be low, medium, and high. and then you'll get your residual risk level. Now for this, it's the risk review next. And then, as you'll see, as I scroll across, you can associate your documents, policies and stuff in place. So for this one, if we're doing suppliers, you could have your supplier agreements, you could have your terms and conditions and everything like that. It's just good to actually have a link to your documents or any legal framework there. So if you've got a risk, you can actually say, yeah, these are all the documents that are associated with that. And then again, you've got last reviewed, next review date, and the status. So the status could be it's being resolved, it's in progress, it's been reviewed. And then these bits here are all just the bits for sorting out all the various impact levels and stuff like that. So what we'll do is we'll just start off and put an example one in. So for this, we're going to just stick in suppliers, and then sub-asset could be late payment, if I can spell. And then the description could be supplier is paying late continuously and impacts supplier relations and internal cost or something like that. Well, as long as you put a description in that means something to you, when you go back and look at it and it actually shows what the impact is going to be, that'll be fine. So then the next thing would be is what's your action going to be? So it could be, say, ensure that you have, 50% upfront before goods are sorted. And then the cost impact could be, this is sometimes a ballpark figure, but try and get a decent guess or a good calculation of what it's going to be. But for this, I'm just going to say £10,000. The risk probability of it happening, I'm going to say medium. The impact, what would be the overall impact to the business? Again, I'm going to say medium. And then, as you can see, the risk level is turned medium. If I had put the probability it was going to be high, that it's always going to happen, you see that the risk level has gone high. If the impact I'd put here was going to be a low, so the probability is it's always going to happen, but the impact to your business is low. The risk level is always going to be high. So anything that is pretty much a medium or a high in this risk level bit, you should identify and resolve as quickly as possible. So in here, we're going to say, are we going to accept the risk, eradicate the risk, reduce the risk, or transfer the risk? So what we're going to say here is we're going to reduce the risk because we're asking for 50% upfront before we sort anything. And then the owner, I'll just say Joe Blogs, but obviously that would be anyone within your business who actually owns this risk. It could be a team of people who manage your risk register or your risk or your frameworks or anything like that. And then we're going to say, what is the residual probability of this actually going to happen? So at the moment, it's going to be a high risk that suppliers aren't going to pay us in time. So after we've asked them for 50% up front, we're going to say the residual probability has gone down to a medium because we're getting some money. And then the overall impact will be low because we're actually getting money coming in. And then you can actually see the risk level has gone from high, it's now gone down to low. And then we could say in here, we could say, supplier agreements, and then terms and conditions, if I could spell. And then the last reviewed, we'll just say today, which is that. The next review could be, again, it depends on what it is. It could be quarterly, it could be monthly, it could be yearly. But for this, we'll just say it's going to be in, 04/12/2020, in a couple of months' time. And then for the status, it's just going to be ongoing. And there we go. And then that's your risk. And then you just go down and fill everything in. So you look at maybe all your assets. So you could say a primary asset would be assets. Sub-asset could be what happens if you're going to be ransomware. So your sub-assets could be ransomware infection. You could then put a description in saying machines have been ransomware, damage to your informational assets, they've all been encrypted, you can't get access to them. What would be the suggested action? well, ensuring that you've got antivirus in place, that your antivirus is up to date, you've had user awareness training for not clicking on various links. Cost impact of that could be, well, however much it is. If you have to pay for a ransomware to get resolved, which I wouldn't recommend, it could be that price, or it could be next to nothing if you've already got everything in place. Then you just work out the probability, the impact, and everything else like that. Now, what you should do is when you're actually going through this, putting it all in, every now and then, these risks that you've put in are actually going to go. So eventually, you might have get to a stage where your suppliers are actually always paying you, and it's no longer a late payment. So what you could do is actually remove this line and actually put it into a closed risks section here. So then you start moving all your open risks into a closed one, and then you just populate it in here. And it's pretty much exactly the same columns and everything like that. And then you just get a historical view of what you've opened, what you've closed. If you start finding out that the amount of risks that you're putting in the risk register are starting to be exactly the same as the ones that you've closed, you've got a problem. If they start coming up every quarter, every year or something like that, you've got a process that you need to resolve and put something in place. So you should go into here, just go through, look at everything. Don't worry about if it's never going to happen or you think it's a 1 in a million chance. Put it down, have a look at it. You'll be surprised at what you're going to fill in. It could be a case of what happens if your mobile phones don't work. What happens if your home users don't have internet access? Can they actually work? Is that going to impact your business? What happens if your VPN goes down? What happens if there's a fire in the office? What about Microsoft 365 going down? What about Google Mail going down? You're not getting your email. Can you actually do your work and go from there? And yeah, so that is it. I hope this makes sense. I'll put a link to this document below the video so you can actually download it and have a play with it. And yeah, go from there. So I hope this has been informative. If you've got any questions, any queries, feel free to put comments in below the video. I'd appreciate it if you like this video. Subscribe to us for more information that's going to be coming in the coming months. It's a young channel, so yeah, hopefully that'll help. Thanks very much.